Hi, welcome to Fatmata Speaks, and as promised, today I'm gonna give you the little steps to help you cope with depression while you deal with the big issues. So let's get started. I wrote down the points because I don't want to forget it. So the first point that I wrote down is to have a bedtime routine. Having a bedtime schedule helps, and it helps because you create structure. One, for example, is you have a fixed time in which you fall asleep. And that is helpful because even though sometimes it's not possible to fall asleep, you can rest. Having the body just lying there, you can rest. And once the body is resting, it provides you with a little boost of energy that helps you tackle the day. Another thing that you can do is before falling asleep or maybe before lying in bed, first have a fixed time when you want to be in bed, right? And before that, if possible, journal. Because once you write things down, it empties the brain at least for a little while. And if you empty your brain before going to bed, you might be able to fall asleep. That's one way of seeing it. And the other thing you can do is maybe watch a movie, not a series, but a movie. And if possible, watch a movie that is inspiring with a good ending. Mostly happy ending will be better. If possible, watch a movie that doesn't have intense drama. The reason for that is very simple. The last thing, I noticed from my experience that the last thing I watch before going to bed or before lying down to rest, most of the time it influences how I go to bed. So I think if you go to bed on a high, because the movie was good, it was inspiring, there was an happy ending, and you see someone gradually, literally having a happy life, you go to bed thinking, oh, they have a happy life. Yes, we know the movie is scripted, but at the same time, it can help you think of another perspective in which you could have a happy life. And I think going to bed with the thought that you as well could have a happy life is helpful. And it can help you rest, which is something you normally cannot do when you're depressed because your brain is like running 1,000 miles in just 1 second. That's the reason why I'm suggesting that you develop a bedtime routine to help you rest, because resting is very important. The second point is now, I'm aware that when we go to bed, some people, as soon as their head hits the pillow, they're out, which is good. For some of us, we cannot fall asleep, right? So how about before falling asleep, because we cannot, imagine how your life would be like if you have everything that you need, all of your needs are met. Imagine a life like that before going to bed. Some people call it like you just being delusional, and some people will not agree that this is actually helpful because then you might end up spending more time in the fantasy than actually living life. But I discover after getting better that if you can picture a life in which you're happy and all of your needs are met while you're depressed, it shows that you still have hope. But if you cannot picture a life in which you have all your needs met and you're generally happy while depressed, that means you cannot see an end to it. And if you cannot see an end to it, there is literally no end to it, because your thoughts create your reality, which is something I discovered after getting better a little bit. So if you can picture your future, if you can picture a life in which you have all that you need, you can build it Because if you can see it in your mind, you can actually create it. There is power to the mind. The mind is the most powerful tool that we have. Well, one of the most powerful tools that we have. So use it. So if before going to bed, imagine that. I think that will help you kind of rest. That's one. And two, it gives you hope. Because going to bed with a smile on your face is better than going to bed with the dense emotion that nothing's getting better. And also, when you imagine your life, the happy, the generally happy life, right? You can figure out what exactly is wrong, what exactly is the issue in your current life. Because if you imagine a life in which that element is not there, you can find the energy to actually fix that element in the now, to actually create that life that you see in your mind. Because if, for example, you're depressed because something terrible happened, and then you imagine like, oh, in a happy life, that thing is not present, and it's not present because obviously you dealt with it. That's why it's not present there. And you can actually start to fantasize about how to actually fix it. How would it work? How would it come to this point in which it's not, this thing doesn't play any role in your life, or it doesn't have any relevance anymore? So use the power of the mind. That's what I'm trying to get at. Use the power of the mind. Use your imagination to get there. And the brain, you can trick it. So trick it to make it work for you. That's the other thing, right? Okay, now we have the sleeping done. Let's go to the next day, when you wake up. When you wake up in the morning, for some of us it's really hard to leave the bed. If you can, don't touch your mobile phone, because you don't need to have the energy of others when you just wake up. You need to just sit with your own energy. You need to motivate yourself to get out of bed. That's the case for most of us, right? So since you have to motivate yourself, put your phone down. If your phone is a factor that kind of contributes to your fear, anxiety, and worsen your depression, put your phone down in the morning when you wake up. And if you can, if you find it challenging to get out of bed, try to print out something that used to make you happy. I don't know if it could be a quote, it could be an image of your favorite actors, or a picture of your favorite book, or just something you maybe used to do when things were okay. If you can print that and have that on paper, and then have that somehow in your surrounding on your bed when you wake up in the morning, it will motivate you. It really does. For example, in my case, well, I had to use my phone for that. I remember like when my depression was really bad, well, I had so many duties I couldn't just like lie there. I will get up in the morning and I will check the Instagram page of my favorite celebrity, because he lived in a different country, so the time difference kind of helped. So he already, like in his afternoon when I have my morning, so most of the time he already posts something, right? And he will post something and I will laugh or smile about it, because he's quite unique and he just embraces all his uniqueness, and that's also motivates me to embrace all that is within me. And I would just see his Instagram posts, and sometimes they were so odd, then it would tickle my brain, and I'll be like, what is he trying to get? What is he trying to say? And then in the process of thinking that, I realized like I already left the bed. I'm in the shower, and sometimes I'm already sitting down to have breakfast. So you have to find something that motivates you, that tickles your brain and just gets you moving. Okay, so since we already started our day, today is gonna be challenging. Some of them are really challenging, right? And our negative thoughts will just be screaming, and we cannot control it. If you can find the strength to conjure up one positive thought in the stream of all those negative thoughts, you can get to shift yourself. Well, shift your mind, because it stops the negative thoughts when something positive comes up and we're like, and that will bring you in the now. It will stop you from going to the places that all those anxiety triggers exist. It will just bring you in the now. And I think that's very important for people who are really depressed, because sometimes the depression is based on something that happened in the past, right? And sometimes it's based on something that is in the future that we don't even know if we're gonna exist, if we're gonna reach that point or not. But they exist in different points that is not the present. So bringing yourself to the present is the key to stop the negative thought from overwhelming you. So in the stream of all the negative thoughts, try to just shoot one positive thought in there, and I'm pretty sure that will help you. Well, the more you do it, the more you become quicker to catch on the negative thoughts, and the faster you'll be able to send positive thoughts in between and pull yourself to the now instead of existing in somewhere else that is not now. In addition to that, I wrote down actively stop your negative thoughts. To every 2 or 3 negative thoughts, find a positive thought to counter it. Also, try to put yourself in the shoes of others. This is not to become them, no, but rather to understand perspective. It helps you understand just how little you partake in whatever that has happened. It also helps you understand that people have things that they are dealing with, and how they choose to express it has nothing to do with you. Because I noticed that some of the negative thoughts, well, in my case, when my anxiety will like spike up and that will send me into the deep down, it was because someone did something, and then somehow I tend to like think I was at fault for that. But let's be honest, we don't really have control on how others react to things, but we have control on how we react to things. So the negative thoughts that stem because you were triggered by an external force, you can control it by telling yourself you don't know what that person is going on, what that person has going on. So, and it's not always it's not your fault. First of all, it's not your fault. How that person decide to express what they're feeling is not your fault, and it's not something you can control. It's not something you should control. It's not something you should even think about. Just let it go. Okay? The other thing to do is find a hobby. Now, finding a hobby is very hard. I'm not gonna lie, for some reason it's quite hard. So I still suggest that you find a hobby, and you find a hobby that you can do with people. Find a hobby that you can do alone as well. Finding a hobby that you can do with people does one thing for you. It helps you connect with others, so you get a community. Because if you're always alone when you're depressed, it can get bad. But if you're in a community, a helpful community, it somehow helps you leave those thoughts behind. Not like completely leave them behind, but I noticed that there was a time when I was having a low, and then all of a sudden I had a high. Like, the change was so drastic. Some of my friends were like, "Are you okay?" And it was strange. And even for me, it was strange. But back then, I couldn't explain why I suddenly felt good. Years later, I went back to rethink the whole situation because that's something I do. And I realized the only change that I had back then was my friend group expanded, and with more people, I have more things to do almost every single day. And I was so engaged with them that for those couple of months, I was able to just stop thinking about the past. Well, I did think about it time to time, but it wasn't the amount wasn't the same as usual. As well as I stopped having this extreme anxiety about the future, because all of a sudden there are people around me who also are planning their future, and everyone has a different perspective. And I was able to gain perspectives on certain subjects by interacting with these people. So having a community will help you gain perspective. It will also provide a place where you can just, if the community is good, where you can just step out of yourself for a while and just exist in the now. So that's the reason why you need a hobby that you can do with a community to help you, just to provide new stimulation. That's all. And then, of course, you need a hobby that you can enjoy by yourself, because sometimes people don't have time. And that is important, because as much as it's good to be around people and gain perspective, you also need to check in with yourself. And I think while carrying out your hobby, you will be able to also have time to integrate what you've learned from the outside, what you've learned by interacting with others, and that will help you manage your depression, because the new perspective will just change the way you see things. And then some things will suddenly start losing their values or start to shrink. It's a natural process, to be honest. And the other thing that you can do to tackle your depression on a day-to-day basis is to leave the house. I know our homes are just perfectly made for us to just stay indoors forever, but to leave the house, that's very important. And that's important because I think by going out into nature, you start to observe some stuff and pick up some elements about nature, about the way nature presents itself, the way nature presents itself, deals with issues, and how nature just exists in itself. And I think by looking at nature from that perspective, you just gain certain understanding. For example, there's a night, there's a day, and they end, but then they come again, and they come in different forms. Just one day, you can have rain, you can have heavy wind, you can have a sun, it's really sunny. You can have all of that in one day, and some days you can only have one. But yet, nature doesn't fall apart. I think when you look at it like that, you realize oh yes, okay, I can have a day where I can just be sad, but I can also have a day where I can be happy, and I can have days where everything is just mixed. And whatever comes, it's happening, but you yourself, you remain. I think I need to explain this point better. Let me see if I wrote something down in that context to explain it well. I do not have an example to explain this, but the point I'm trying to get to is, you existed before all those not so good thing, neutral thing happened. Before all of that happened, you already existed. So don't let their existence, don't let it shrink you, don't let it define you to the point that you cannot function without connecting yourself to that. You can learn from it, you can own it, you can feel it, but don't let it define you to the point that your whole existence only connects to that, because you're more than that. You were already enough. You were already whole before all of that thing happened. And even when they happen, they cause certain emotions within you. It's okay, feel it, but then go back to yourself, because yourself was already whole. I hope I explained that in a clear way. I will try to see if I can rephrase that in another time. But I'm gonna stop the video here for today, and I wrote something down to close this video, so let me read it out. Know this, right? Healing from depression takes time. It does. But achieving a feeling of getting better does not take forever. That is, if you're actually facing it and dealing with it without any distraction. So, depression, it's gonna take a while, depending on what you're fighting against. But you're gonna be okay. If there's one thing I know, is that there is a guarantee that we're gonna be okay. We just have to allow ourselves to have it, and that sometimes means we have to overcome our shadow, right? But sometimes it's gonna mean that we're gonna put up a fight. If that's what it's gonna take, then put up that fight. But know this: you're gonna be okay at the end of the day. I think just having that at the back of your mind should help you survive the day. It just should help you survive a day in your life, should help you survive a day in depression, and help you move forward. I hope this video was helpful and understandable to a certain extent. If not, if there's anything that was unclear in this video, just write it in the comment and I will try to rephrase it and then get back to you guys. Okay, so that's it for today. See you next time. Bye bye.